Holy shit, why? Welcome back to Cactus Core Play Zero Escape Virtue's Last Reward. My name is Kevandre. Last time, we went through the director's office, and we found that Ten Myoji is carrying around a picture of a young girl named Akane Kirishiki, who Quark says was Ten Myoji's first love. Ten Myoji denies it. He's like, what the fuck you talking about, you little bitch? And then we're going back to the warehouse, whereas Ten Myoji forgot his picture, so him and Quark went back to the director's office. So we're going back by ourselves to the warehouse. Guess I should be getting back then. Man, this game would be half the length if you took out all of those traveling map things. Also, this is episode 30 of this series, and we've only filled in, like, half of this. Like, a little more than half, I guess. But still got plenty still to go. We're already at 30 episodes. So I think this is already one of my longest series. I stepped into the warehouse to find all of the other teams already there. Kay and Luna. Let me get the cup ready. Hold on. Fuck off, Ibuprofen. Fi and Clover. And Dio. The moment Dio spotted me, he dashed over to the rightmost AB room and slid his card through the reader. At least he's waiting now.
An Ambidex gate has been opened. 45 minutes remain until Ambidex game polling closes.
As he turned to look at me, I swore I saw a flash of a smug grin. There, happy? This time I waited for you to get back before I opened it. You see, I can be considerate. But Ten Myoji and Quark aren't here. Yeah, where are they? I guess they forgot something back in the room we found. They ran back to grab it real quick. Then they'll be here in a few minutes. No big deal. While we waited, we exchanged information about the rooms we'd investigated. Unfortunately, none of it seemed very useful. None of us had found anything, and we were no closer to unraveling any of the increasing number of mysteries we were faced with. With that discussion exhausted, we sat down to wait. Before long, 20 minutes had passed since Dio opened the door, and Ten Myoji and Quark were nowhere in sight. Don't you think they're taking a little long?
I'm getting worried. What if something happened to them?
I'll go have a look.
Then I shall accompany you.
Nah, I'll be fine by myself. It's not that far away.
Just don't look into the abyss too long or you might become a monster.
I don't think... Okay. Look, I'm just gonna go to the director's office. I'll be right back. No big deal. Right. See you guys later. I gave a quick goodbye wave and stepped out of the warehouse. Beep, 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 boop, boop, bop, beep. Good lord. Huh? That's odd. There's nobody here. Picture's gone, though. Ten Myoji and Quark must have been here then. I laid out the Floor B map. They must have taken the door to that faces the warehouse. After that, they probably went through the warehouse out the blue door to the elevator. Yeah, that's a much shorter route. On the other hand, I came through the red door, which is kind of the long way around. Huh. Looks like we managed to miss each other perfectly. Ugh. Well, this was a huge waste of time. Shoot, might as well head back, I suppose. I packed up the map and was headed toward the door when... Huh? There was a light on where there hadn't been a light before. What? Why is that thing on? We messed with it earlier, but nothing seemed to work. I felt a sudden wave of inexplicable... I can never say that fucking word. Inexplicable, nauseating dread. The light stared at me. I swallowed and edged cautiously toward it. The machine was in arm's reach now. I stretched out my hand toward it, slowly. Slowly.
So, you finally made it.
No, you're...
I am Zero. I was the one who brought you here. You undoubtedly have as many questions for me as there are stars in the sky. As you can see, however, this is only a recording. I will therefore be unable to directly answer any questions. Ask if you wish, but I cannot respond.
I considered taking a swing at him, but decided that was spectacularly futile and kept my balled fists at my side.
Now, where to begin? There are many things I wish to tell you, but unfortunately our time is limited. As such, the information I can provide is also limited. I have chosen 2 things of great importance to tell you. First, I will tell you about termites. In retrospect, I suppose that's a rather odd thing to say. I imagine you look rather bewildered right now. Perfectly understandable. The person who kidnapped you and threatened you with death is lecturing you about insects. I suspect it hardly seems fair. Nonetheless, this is very important. In a way, it will determine your fate. So I ask that you listen carefully. Have you ever seen a termite mound? They are splendid structures. Some might even call them works of art. Termites are natural architects, and their mounds are both structurally sound and make excellent use of space. So are they following some sort of plan as they build? Are there termite blueprints detailing which room goes where? No, of course not. Each termite is simply an oblivious cog in a tremendous machine programmed by millions of years of termite DNA. It is doubtful an individual termite has any idea what its contributions are helping to create. But a human does. We can appreciate the elegant forms of their alien cathedrals. We can see the simple beauty of their perfect functionality. We can understand the splendid planning of their structure. In other words, only an intelligence of a higher order can understand the beauty of what the termite builds. Now consider humans. Why are we alive? Why do we love and give birth? Why do we create? From where do our cultures spring? There are many theories, but no one knows the truth. We are oblivious cogs in a tremendous machine programmed by millions of years of human DNA. No doubt you see what this analogy is supposed to illustrate. Yes, I mean to say humans are not different from termites. We trudge through our lives with no greater understanding of our ultimate goal. You might say we don't understand what we're building. Only an intelligence of a higher order than ours can understand what we're doing. Imagine how we might look to such an intelligence. We may be building some structure so perfect and elegant that we can't even perceive it. Whatever it is, we're likely to have been building it on a dimension just above the ones we know since time immemorial. If we are like the termites, then what we've created is almost certainly something of tremendous beauty. And you are about to catch a glimpse of it. Or have you already? Well, that's enough on that subject, I think. Consider what I've said. Now, let's move on to the second topic. It is somewhat more immediately meaningful to your life, and, in fact, the lives of several billion other people. I realize that this is rather sudden, but I have a password for you. Let me get my camera ready. Bum, bum. It is the password to disarm the bomb numbered 1. Bomb? Are you ready? I will only say this once, so pay close attention. The password to disarm the number 1 bomb is BQZ RGJ DXR. Taking that picture. Boom. And that's number 1. The one that Dio gave us was 0. The one that 0 gave us is 1. You'd think it would be the other way around. I had no idea what he was talking about. What bomb? Was he saying there were bombs too? If he'd guessed at my future confusion, he showed no sign of it. That is the last of the information this message was meant to convey. Before I go, however, I have a warning. You cannot tell any of your companions what you heard or saw here. If you do, you will be penalized immediately. I hope we will meet again someday. We would have much to discuss. Wait! God damn it, you can't just spout all that crap and disappear? I found myself yelling at empty air. The hologram had disappeared. Ugh. What kind of an idiot does he take me for? Termites? Other dimensions? How could this have to do with kidnapping us? Shit. I kicked out at a nearby shelf.
10 minutes remain until Ambidex game polling closes. All players, please enter your votes. If no vote is recorded before the deadline is passed, any non-voting parties will automatically ally.
Ah, crap. I need to get back. Not like there's any point staying here. I spun around and ran out of the room toward the warehouse. Grandpa! Look, Mr. Sigma's back!
Took you long enough.
Where are the others? In the AB rooms. They went in already?
Yep.
Why didn't you two? Have you been waiting for me? Yeah. Grandpa said that we had something to tell you before we voted, no matter what. Oh?
Nothing that significant. Just wanted to tell you we're going to choose ally this round. That's it.
And you had to tell me that no matter what? Seems kind of pointless. I mean, words are cheap. You can promise whatever you want.
True, but we've got something to back it up. Just hear me out.
Okay, go ahead.
Quark and I both have 8 BP. We're already at the home stretch. So what do we need to get to the magic number? Well, we need you to choose ally. If you do that, it doesn't really matter to us what we pick.
You'd get to 9 whether you had 10 or 2 or 3 points.
Exactly. That being the case, we don't have any reason to betray you. And if we both choose ally, we both gain points.
True, but you must have considered You must have considered that I'll choose betray. That would mean that you choose betray to betray yourselves. But that's why we're telling you we won't choose betray.
Mm-hmm.
Can I trust you?
Of course.
Alright, tell me one thing. Let's say we do this in both ally. Everyone gets 2 points. That means you and Quark will have enough to leave, which is great for you, but I'll be stuck with a measly 5. How do I know you aren't going to just open the number 9 door and leave us in the lurch?
I can guarantee it.
How?
I can give you my word. I will not open the number 9 door even if I have enough points to do so. I swear it. We aren't gonna abandon everyone else just so we can escape.
I swear too. I promise. Man. So all you've got is a promise, huh?
When I make a promise, I keep it. Trust me.
Please. You've got to trust us. Alright, fine. I'll trust you.
2 minutes remain until Ambidex game polling closes.
We're counting on you, Sigma.
You've got to choose ally. You promised. With that, they turned and ran into the AB room second from the right. I don't know that I necessarily actually trust them to do that. To not escape, I mean. Well, I guess I should get moving.
Ba-da-dang.
One minute remains until Ambidex game polling closes.
I had a decision to make. Should I trust Quark and Tenmyoji? Well, I could believe that they were telling the truth and still betray them. That would bring my BP to 6. I'd be that much closer to 9. And choosing betray would guarantee that they wouldn't try to escape without the rest of us. Betrayal seemed like a safe bet, but...
Please! You gotta trust us! You gotta choose ally! You promised!
Tenmyoji I could betray easily enough, but Quark? What the hell was I gonna do?
10 seconds remain until Ambidex game polling closes. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Just go with ally this first time.
Round 3 of the Ambidex game has been completed. Results will be displayed in the warehouse. Thank you for your participation. Ambidex gates now opening. Results from Round 3 of the Ambidex game will now be displayed. Please direct your attention to the results screen.
What? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Why? Tenmyoji. Why? Also, where was Alice? Is Alice still alive?
Points have been assigned or subtracted accordingly. Please check your bracelet to see your updated bracelet points.
I forget if she's alive or not. Hey! What the fuck? What the fuck? Why'd you betray me?
Quark had nothing to do with this. I made the vote.
Grandpa. Alright, fine. Why'd you break your promise, Tenmyoji?
I only promised you one thing. We wouldn't open the number 9 door even if we got to 9 points.
What? So you're not gonna leave? But Clover's about to open that fucking door and they're gonna go with him.
Not what I said. Of course we're going to leave.
What?
Look, see Clover over there?
What? Don't tell me. Oh no, right, yeah, Alice is dead. She killed herself because of the Radical 6. I remember now.
Oh no.
She's... that bitch! Wait, Quark and Tenmyoji have... The words were barely out of her mouth when Tenmyoji and Quark ran past. No, god damn it!
Clover, are you really going to leave? Well, yeah. Why else would I open the door?
But why?
I'm gonna go call the others, so we can capture Zero Senior.
Tenmyoji, are you and Quark going too?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry, everybody.
So, Sigma, happy? I kept my promise. Clover opened the door, not me.
Like hell I'm happy. That's some shady shit, Tenmyoji.
If you say so. I have to get out of here and that's that. He's got to pay for what he's done.
He?
Zero.
You mean you know who Zero Senior is?
Yeah. No point keeping a secret now, I suppose. I know exactly who Zero Senior is.
What?
The number 9 door has been opened. It will remain open for 9 seconds.
Let's go! Come on, guys! Time to move! Right.
Oh, wait! This is for you, Mr. Sigma.
Quark held something out. I looked down to see 2 pieces of folded paper. What is this?
It's a letter. I wrote it in the director's office before the AB game. I wanted to tell you what kind of guy Grandpa is. So, read it, okay?
He pressed it into my hand.
See you later, Mr. Sigma.
Then he turned and ran toward the door, 10 Myoji and Clover following in his footsteps. I was so surprised by the letter I didn't even try to stop them. Before I could think of anything to say...
See ya. Goodbye.
Later, bitches.
The number 9 door has closed. This ends the nonary game. Thank you for your participation. As the game is over, all doors other than the number 9 door have been unlocked. Escape is not possible. Please enjoy your stay.
Shit! They're gone. All we can do now is hope they bring help back.
Indeed.
I agree. I looked down at Quark's letter and slowly unfolded it. His handwriting was still slightly uneven, but he'd filled both pages with writing. I began to read.
It was a really stormy day when he found me. He said the rain was coming down so hard it almost hurt, but somehow he managed to hear a baby crying. I guess I must have been crying pretty loud. He took me home and did his best to raise me, but he'd never been married or had a kid before, so I think it was really hard for him. He couldn't figure out how to mix the formula, so he was always carrying the directions around with him. Also, I guess I was a pretty picky eater, so if he didn't get the water to formula ratio just right, I wouldn't eat it. I guess I was kind of a pain, huh? But he didn't give up, and now here I am. When he found me, I was really, really small, and he was worried that I might not make it. That's why he named me Quark. A quark is a really, really small thing, and I was really, really small too. Grandpa didn't need to worry, though, because it turned out that I was pretty tough. When I was 1, he forgot I was sleeping in the bed of his truck, and he drove off. I rolled out and went off the back, but I didn't even get scratched. I started walking when I was 2, and when he wasn't looking, I fell down the stairs. I didn't get hurt then, either. When I was 3, I got really sick. I had a super high fever for a week, but eventually I got better. I guess you could say I'm pretty lucky. Anyway, I didn't really have any more accidents after that, and I was a pretty healthy kid. By the time I was 6, I had started helping Grandpa out with his work. His job was to gather junk from abandoned buildings. Then he'd fix it up or pull out the useful parts and sell them. There were plenty of abandoned buildings, but finding good stuff in them was hard. You had to know which parts were useful, or you could end up wasting a bunch of time. Every time I'd find something, he'd explain to me how it was, and how it was supposed to work, how to fix it, all sorts of things. Usually, though, I just wanted to finish up work so I can go to the theater. The theater came to our town once a week in a wagon. They'd show us old news or movies. I went every single week, but Grandpa only went once in a while, and he'd only go weeks when they showed movies. Oh yeah, I didn't know that I'd been adopted until I was 7. Duh! One of the other kids on my block told me. I guess after Grandpa found me, he looked all over town to try and find somebody who'd take me. The kid from my block actually had a mom, and he'd asked her if she would take me too. I gotta admit, I was pretty shocked when I heard that. There weren't a lot of kids with parents around, so hearing that someone lived with his actual mom was pretty impressive. I was also kind of surprised that Grandpa had tried to get someone else to take me. Didn't that mean he didn't want me? The kid who told me about Grandpa trying to get rid of me was a real jerk. He was totally spoiled, and he'd bragged to everyone about how he had a mom. He liked to come up to me while I was working and say stuff like, "Must be hard not having a mother." What a dick. It had never bothered me before, but after I found out that Grandpa had adopted me, I started to think that maybe he didn't really want me. If I could work on my own, then he could get rid of me. I was scared to know the truth, so I never asked him. Then one day he took me to a bar in our neighborhood. During the day, of course. He went there sometimes to drink scotch, but I'd never been before. When he got in, he walked up to the counter with that grumpy look he has, and I thought, oh no, he's going to make me work here. But I was wrong. I saw him pass something to the bartender, and he picked me up and set me down on a stool next to the counter. The stool was pretty high, especially for a 7-year-old kid, and my legs just dangled off of it. It seemed really, really high to me, and I was pretty nervous. Eventually, the bartender came back with a glass of scotch and another big glass full of something else. As I looked closer, I realized that the second glass was full of some sort of brown liquid with a scoop of ice cream in it. It took me a minute to realize what it was. A root beer float. I'd never seen one before. I was so surprised. Root beer was even more expensive than the nicest alcohol in the bar. To me and the other kids, it seemed more like an urban legend than a real drink. But there it was, right in front of me. I stared at the float. I still wasn't sure it was real at that point, then turned to look at Grandpa. He looked back at me. I didn't know what to do, so I turned to look at the bartender. He'd already turned around and moved off, though, so I figured he must have put the glass down in front of me on purpose. It still didn't seem like it could be real, and I was just staring at it when Grandpa told me to hurry up and drink it before the ice cream melted. His gruff voice sounded like an angel's. "Is this really mine?" He nodded. Words can't describe how awesome it was. I'd never tasted anything like root beer before. That creamy sweetness of the ice cream made my entire head feel light. I felt like the luckiest boy in the whole world. That's not an exaggeration, I really thought that. The root beer float was delicious, but what made me even happier was Grandpa. When I looked over at him, he was smiling. I know that's got to be hard for you to imagine, but he really was. Right then, I didn't care whether he'd found me and adopted me or not. He'd bought me a root beer float. That made me way luckier than some kid who had a mother but never had tasted root beer. Of course, after we left the bar, he was the first kid I bragged to. So Grandpa and I were doing pretty good. Until the fight. I was in a super bad mood one day. I'd torn one of my shoes that morning, and some old drunk guy had yelled at me. All the junk I found was totally useless. The day was almost over, and I was fed up, so I just grabbed some random trash and took it back to the house. When I showed what I found to Grandpa, he frowned. He started going through each thing I'd brought back, explaining why they were all useless. I got really mad and just yelled, "I don't care!" Then he got mad, and I just couldn't take it anymore, so I ran away. I was pretty upset, and I started thinking that maybe Grandpa had only adopted me so he could raise me to work and make money for him. After a while, I went and hid in an abandoned building, but by then I started to calm down and think maybe I should go back and apologize. It had started raining pretty hard, though, so I decided I should wait for it to stop. But that was just an excuse. The truth was that I was nervous. Part of me knew I'd done something wrong, but I didn't want to admit it. The rain didn't stop, though, so I just sat there staring out at the gloomy gray sky. I imagined Grandpa coming to get me. It kept raining all night, and he never showed up. I gave up waiting and decided it was time to go home. I was about halfway there when I heard somebody groaning. At first I thought I should just ignore it and not get involved, and I went over there anyway, and it was Grandpa. He was totally soaked, and I could tell right away that he'd been there for a really long time. I yelled, and he opened his eyes a little bit. He smiled weakly and said he was glad I was safe. He'd spent all night out in the rain looking for me. I felt awful. Grandpa had been out in the rain looking for me so long that he'd collapsed. It was horrible. I was horrible. He'd heard me crying in the rain, but I hadn't heard him. As I ran to get to the doctor, I promised whatever God might be listening that if they would only save Grandpa, I'd never ask for another root beer float again. He got a real bad fever and his temperature wouldn't go down for days. The doctor said if it kept up, he'd die. If he died, then I'd be all alone. There wouldn't be anybody left to care about me. The thought of that happening terrified me. Fortunately, I must have passed some of the luck on to Grandpa because a week later his fever finally broke. I was glad he wasn't going to die, but I was also a little scared. What if he decided he didn't want a stupid kid like me around anymore? My plan was to apologize as soon as he'd wake up, but when the moment came, my brain just stopped. Grandpa started to talk, and it took a minute to realize he was apologizing. I didn't know what to think. He explained that he was an old man, and that he meant he was probably going to die sooner rather than later. He was strict with me because he wanted to make sure I'd be able to make it on my own after he was gone, but maybe he'd been a little too strict.
All of the things I'd worried about had been stupid and selfish. Grandpa cared about me a whole lot. He'd been worried when I ran off, and he'd gone out into the rain to look for me. I tried to apologize, but when I opened my mouth, I just started crying. I don't think I'd ever cried that much since I was a baby. But he just smiled and patted my head. I asked him if he ever regretted adopting me. His eyes got all wide, and he said, "Of course not." He told me that he'd been looking for a really important lady, and because of that, he had had to get up on pretty much everything else in his life. But when he took me in and started raising me, he felt like he'd gotten some of what he lost back. That was when I decided to stay with him forever, even if he said I couldn't. My. I believe that's Quark End. Or Tenmyoji End. I assume it's Quark End, though. Let's skip the credits. Oh, that is Tenmyoji End. Achievement's called In Root Beer Veritas. Interesting. I would have thought that was Quark End. Alright, but yeah, that's where we're at. Another ending, a good episode length. Some impressive dialogue by me. By impressive, I mean excellent voice acting. But yeah, that's going to be it for this time. My shout out this week is going to go to a voice actress named Erika Harlacher. She's not in this game, but she is in another Uchikoshi game called AI the Somnium Files, which you've heard about before. And she plays Aiba in that game. She's also well known as playing An Takamaki in Persona 5. And I'm currently playing through Persona 5 Royal, so I'm getting exposed to her a lot. And her Aiba voice, I feel, is pretty different from her An voice. Like, sometimes there's some crossover. But I'm just like, oh, impressive differences in your speech there, madam. Yeah, I think that she's great. I like her quite a bit. I've been following her on Twitter since I played Somnium Files, and I like her a lot. I'm not romancing on in Persona 5 Team Makoto because, share me, but that's it's good stuff though. I do like her, and I think that she adds a lot to the An character with her voice, so it's good. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Later, players.